The Pickleball Show is brought to you by PBX Club. PBX stands for Pickleball Excellence. Join today and get the latest pickleball tips and strategies, news and opinion. Save money on paddles and other equipment with coupon codes to online pickleball retailers. Get travel discounts to tournaments and a whole lot more. How much does it cost to become a PBX Club member? Well, it's free. Just go to freepbxclub.com. That's freepbxclub.com. There's even a link in the show notes for this episode. freepbxclub.com. PBX Pickleball Excellence. Join the club. It's free.
This is Deb Harrison of picklepongdeb.com, and here's the host of the Pickleball Show, Chris Allen.
Thank you, Deb, and welcome to the show dedicated to helping you play better pickleball while having even more fun and meeting new friends who share your passion for this great sport. My name is Chris Allen, coming to you today from Asheville, North Carolina. Let's walk on over and see whose paddles are in the fence today. Joining me from Grass Valley, California, it is Prem Carnot. Prem, how are you today?
Very well.
And a couple of hours north of Toronto, Canada, Collingwood, Ontario to be specific, it is owner of Third Shot Sports, Mark Renneson.
Hi, Chris. Great to be with you.
Now, each of you with your coaching practices, it's got to be tough to strike a balance between this is the way that I think people should play. When do you put somebody into your style, and when do you coach to conform to their style that they're already playing in that may not be your particular style? What about you, Mark? Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. I think a student-centered approach is important, and that means coming to the person where they are rather than forcing them to conform to you.
I think of like football coaches like this is the West Coast offense. This is what we play. And when you come into this team, you're going to learn this system. I guess that's the opposite of what you're talking about.
Yeah, that being said, I mean, people are coming to coaches hopefully because those coaches are experts and they know more than they do, right? And they can help them grow. And so Prem's right, you need to have students who are open-minded and willing. I find the most effective way at convincing someone or showing them that whatever they're doing has limitations is not to tell them about it, but to show them. And so if that means setting up a drill, for example, let's say someone has a grip, right? They hold the paddle in a particular way that you sort of know has these limitations. Mm-hmm. I mean, you could explain it to them and hope that they trust you enough or they believe you enough to be convinced. But generally, it's far more effective to say, okay, well, let's do a little drill here that simulates a game, and to create the situation where they start to see and experience the limitation of that grip. So if it might be, on a low ball, that particular grip doesn't work, or if it's on a backhand, it becomes very weak, right? If you set up the conditions so it's not your authority that's convincing them, it's their experience. And I find when you use that approach where they start to experience the limitations of what they're doing, they're far more likely to be open to changing.
It's almost like the Socratic method. It's you asking questions or giving scenarios to where you let them arrive at the answer, because when they arrive at the answer themselves, it means so much more than if you were to just tell them the answer.
That's right. And it needs to be a felt experience, right? So maybe that's a little bit different than Socrates, because that was just like a purely intellectual exercise. This needs to be a kinesthetic one, right? They need to feel, wow, my backhand is really weak when I hold the paddle like it's a frying pan, or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I can't put away overheads when I use just my hand and my wrist instead of the rest of my body. Like they need to feel it, and I find that they're far more open to learning once they've experienced that limitation.
What about you, Prem? When a student comes out of your most advanced trainings, is there a mark or something? Is there a stamp where that's a Prem Carnot student, and you can tell he's playing or she is playing the Prem Carnot style? Or do you tailor your coaching more toward what they're already gravitating toward?
I would second what Mark said, and there's no really a Prem Carnot style outside. The only Prem Carnot style is to have fun and be more relaxed on the court. If you see someone who's very relaxed on the court, you probably think it's a Prem Carnot style. That's the only one which you probably is a constant. I often hear people when they're able to do that, and it's mostly because I teach them how to play smart pickleball. The basic foundation of my teaching is always about getting the best shot you can from the games you have. It's very interactive. Whenever I teach people, I often say, okay, you're doing something and let's see if it works. And I probably use the same strategy which Mark talks about. Here are a few number of things I'm going to do and see if it works for you. And then if they say, let's take the same example as he said about our grip. So I'll probably set up a certain drill and ask them to and hit a certain way and see if it works for them. If it really works for them, I'll say, great. If it doesn't, then we'll say, okay, that doesn't seem to work. So let's see what works for you. And so I'll give them a few suggestions till whatever works for them. There's no specific way. And I often say when people ask me, oh, could I switch my hands between the grip in one side to the other side? I said, my clear theory in that is I know certain racket sports coaches will tell you don't do that. But I am particularly very clear about it is do whatever works for you. I will work with whatever works for you but it should work for you. My particular game might not work the way it works for you. So I don't have a set style of this is how it should be done under the basics of the foundations of the game of certain rules of the games. Inside that context, however you play, if it is effective to your particular style of game, that's what I want to try and enhance. When I started pickleballguru.com 3 years ago, it was actually called Pickleball Health, and I still remember the tagline which says, play your game in caps better. That's what my coaching style always remains is I'm only trying to enhance your game to the best level possible, and it doesn't have to be my game. It's not my game on yours. And that's where I came into coaching, because some of the people I saw were trying to actually set up a certain way, a pro forma, how the game should be played. And I didn't like that, and I didn't like how that was being taught.
I think there's other considerations beside what works. I think that needs to be the first one. You're right. Like, okay, let's set up this situation that you find in a game, right? Okay, someone hits a high lob over your backhand, right? Say, let's see what works. But then there's other considerations as well. So what might work right now for, say, a beginner or a novice player who is, just satisfied, let's say, to get their serve in the court. We, as coaches and who've had more experience and can sort of see a bigger picture, if that technique is working right now, let's say it's the sort of that old style of sort of almost like you're bowling when you hit the serve, right? That very extreme low to high path. Uh-huh. That might work for getting the ball in the court, but over the long run, that's going to be a hard technique to really build on, right? Because of the extreme low to high nature of it. When you watch most of the best servers, it's like a little more, it's not sidearm, but it's a little more towards that way.
Yeah.
I think we also need to make sure that our students are learning technique that they can build on in the future as they improve. And then also using technique that is also safe, right? So if right now, it works because it goes in, if I'm making contact sort of behind my body, right? If my impact point is almost behind me, I might be able to control the angle of my paddle enough to get the ball to go where I want, but my body's in such a weak position that I'm at more risk for an injury. So I think that what works is an important consideration for technique, but we also have to think about how can I build on this technique in the future, or can I build on this technique in the future, and is this technique safe, right? So in the long run, they're less likely to get hurt.
You're right, Mark. When I was saying about what works for you is, say, for example, some of the top tennis coaches who have come into this profession, I've seen them say very clearly, do not switch hands. When you're trying to hit a backhand shot, do not switch hands. I want you to play with that. That would completely throw off the whole theory that the top 2 or 3 players in this country actually do that consistently.
Yeah, you watch Enrique,
or Wes Gabrielson, the top 2 players who won the Nationals last year, will tell you they do that consistently. So there's no way I would say that you shouldn't do that. If it works for you, you should do that. If it doesn't, then I'll be happy to help you. But if it doesn't, that's where I'm drawing. That's when I'm saying what works for you. I'm not. As I said, it's in the basic premises from where I'm taking a player, and then once I see where they are, then I will move them around. Does that make sense, Mark, when I say that?
Yeah. I think that's a good point. I think we're coming from the same place, that it needs to start with the student and see what works. There's very few people, I think, that can control both hands and both sides of their body equally well, right? I guess Enrique and Wes are exceptions to that rule.
Well, I'll guarantee you, I knew Wes before. Wes never used to do that, and he learned it.
Mm-hmm.
So when I met him and I, played some tournaments against him, he was not at all doing that. He learned it, and I know another person from the same area in Oregon named Curtis Campbell also enforced and learned that. I play right-handed pickleball, but I'm a lefty.
Oh, really?
Interesting.
Boy, it sure comes in handy when they get an angle on you. You can make that switch. It's nice to be able to hit that shot back over and not have to lean over and do a backhand. It does come in handy, so I thought it might be a useful tool to have in the toolbox.
Yeah, but again, it's not. I won't say this is the only pro forma you have to do it. It's only to people who already have it or who feel comfortable with that. Then I would probably say yes. If it works for you, do it. If it doesn't.
But you're not going to tell somebody, you know what you need? You need to switch hands. You're not going to, if they're not doing it already, you're not going to advise them to go ahead and start doing it.
That's right.
And I think that like you said, you are both coming from the same place. You definitely want to show them what's working now, and then also make sure that it's something that will work in the future as well. Like you said, Mark, something to build on.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
You don't want to teach a 3.0 how to just beat a 3.0. You want to make sure that what you're teaching them will work against a 3.5 and a 4.0 and on down the line. I
agree. That's a very good approach from Mark's side. To look into that also is that how they move and improve. And as I said, it's again from the basic premises of a foundation of the game of like, here are the serves, you want to get it to that particular area, so you want to serve that way, to that direction. Now, how you execute it inside the confines of the rules is important, and what is the most effective one. That's how I go about trying to explain to them, see if it is effective. If it is not, let's work on it.
Well, gentlemen, I know that there are thousands of players out there playing right now who are so fortunate to have come across your path, Prem, and your path too, Mark. And thanks to what we were talking about earlier with YouTube now and the internet and everything, there are going to be thousands more. Prem, what's coming up in the future for you?
From my personal side, there's another whole gamut of videos which are going to come out on a particular strategy of the game, which is very important. It is still working, and so it will be soon coming out before Christmas for all the readers and followers of my style of teaching.
Learn more about everything that Prem is doing at thepickleballguru.com. Mark?
We continue to put out at least one video a week through our YouTube channel, Third Shot Sports. I'm working on developing some coaching resources. So we've heard from a lot of people who, wherever they are, they're starting to somehow, either on purpose or by accident, doing a little bit of coaching at their club, their local club, and they've asked for some resources to help them start to introduce the game to more and more people. So we've got some coaching resources coming up that will be available on our website.
That's wonderful, Mark.
Look forward to it, and you can learn more about Mark and everything that he's up to at thirdshotsports.com. Gentlemen, it was a real pleasure having two of the world's greatest pickleball coaches on at the same time, and thank you both. We really do appreciate it.
Thanks a lot, Chris.
And as always, we'd like to thank you for joining us today as well. Do you have an opinion about what we discussed today? Maybe a suggestion, a topic you'd like to hear us discuss here on the Pickleball Show? Well, we'd love to hear from you. Email us anytime at mail@pickleballshow.com. That's mail@pickleballshow.com. You'll find us on Facebook too, facebook.com/pickleballshow, twitter.com/pickleballshow, and don't forget about the good old website. It's pickleballshow.com. Also, head over to iTunes if you get a chance. Hit that subscribe button. You'll never miss an episode. And if you feel it's appropriate, go ahead and leave us one of those coveted 5-star reviews, which boosts us up in the rankings and makes it so much easier for other pickleball players around the world to find the show. I'm Chris Allen. This is the Pickleball Show. And until next week, keep 'em low. The Pickleball Show is brought to you by PBX Club. PBX stands for Pickleball Excellence. Join today and get the latest pickleball tips and strategies, news and opinion. Save money on paddles and other equipment with coupon codes to online pickleball retailers. Get travel discounts to tournaments and a whole lot more. How much does it cost to become a PBX Club member? Well, it's free. Just go to freepbxclub.com. That's freepbxclub.com. There's even a link in the show notes for this episode. freepbxclub.com. PBX Pickleball Excellence. Join the club. It's free.